Conducting a study on conflict management on campus, a lot of students filled out the questionnaire with responses like, "Stop complaining and just suck it up." "What else can I do? I've just got to suck it up and push on through." And the variation of, "I've been trying to suck it up, but I don't think I can do it much longer. I'm ready to snap." All of these are also things I've heard frequently from college students who came in to talk about their issues with me at the counseling center. Most of them are engaged in latent or manifest conflict with other students, university staff, or even faculty. Whether apparent or not, conflict has to be resolved. Interestingly, however, I haven't heard many students say they're going to try to negotiate with the other party in those situations, or I haven't heard them talk about seeking retaliation. Taking one case I dealt with, for instance, this was between roommates who share an apartment. Student A is working at the dormitory cafeteria until 9 o'clock, and she needs at least 3 hours each night to prepare for the next day's classes. On the other hand, student B has to get up early Tuesdays and Thursdays because her seminar starts at 8, so she wants to go to bed early the nights before. The two talked and decided on a time to go to bed. But when I interviewed student B 3 months later, somehow she was not happy with the arrangement and even resented her roommate, even though she wouldn't go so far as to admit that. Obviously, they aren't getting along well. Something's wrong. What has gone wrong between them? What could be possibly the cause of her resentment? Oh, by the way, they decided to turn the lights out at 11:30.
People get weird on you over really trivial things. Everybody's got some episode like that. You never know, you know?
Really? Who doesn't?
What I'm saying is, it could be anything, but usually small matters you can ignore. So when an issue has blown up in her head like that, after all, she went to talk to you, right? It must be something real serious.
That's good insight, Larry. In the article I assigned last week, Gary Thomas deals with the exact topic, interpersonal conflict. Gary Thomas maintains that conflict is a process consisting of 4 stages: frustration, conceptualization, behavior, and outcome. Its final stage can be either a satisfactory resolution or continued emotional stress, which our student B is in right now. The first stage of the process model of conflict is frustration. Frustration arises when we're not, so to speak, in sync with others. It occurs when we perceive that our goals, beliefs, or attitudes are inconsistent with those of another individual or group with which we have formed a social unit. In our example case, student B has frustration. Evidently, student A doesn't manifest any sign of it. Well, the second stage is conceptualization. Conceptualization is the cognitive evaluation of what one perceives as the cause of frustration. This means we consciously gauge whatever we see as its cause. Student B states that she feels frustrated over the arrangement between herself and her roommate over their lights out time.
Dr. Gonzalez, isn't it hard to judge what's frustrating you, especially when you're really frustrated?
Yes, that's true. Judging could be near impossible, since it requires mental equilibrium, which can't be your state of mind when you're really frustrated or upset. And usually there's not just one issue, but a series of possible explanations for a conflict. We will discuss this in more detail later. The third stage of the model is behavior. According to Thomas, when we choose behavior to handle a troublesome situation of this kind, we will be influenced by 3 factors: egocentricity, a general insight into the entire situation, and the size of the issue. The degree of egocentricity is very important because egocentricity causes one to define the issues only within one's concerns without recognizing the other parties. This makes cooperation as a means of resolution less likely. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes is not an easy thing to do. When we talked with student B, we found out from the student's records that her roommate had lost a scholarship last semester and is trying to get her grades up, but that student B didn't know that. Do you think this piece of information might have influenced her behavior or attitude toward her roommate if it had been available to her at the initial stage? If so, why?
Naturally, she'd be more understanding, wouldn't she?
Why, Bruce?
Well, wouldn't anyone? It'd be obvious she needs to work hard and until late at night. Maybe she can't afford to cut down on her working hours either, you know. So she should just give her a break, or rather, more breaks, I mean.
You're precisely on point here. Seeing her roommate's predicament could change her perspective completely. As you can see, the person's general insight into the situation plays a big part. If a person has some general understanding about all the underlying concerns, the likelihood of reaching a solution will increase. There are two sides to the coin, as always, though. Actually, student B told us that she suggested they go to bed at 11 o'clock because she felt a need to concede some in the situation, even though she actually wants to sleep by 10:30. But somehow, she didn't make it known to her roommate that she started negotiations already having yielded 30 minutes, while her roommate assumed she wanted to turn the light off at 11 o'clock. So by the time the negotiations were over, student B had yielded 1 hour, while student A had yielded 30 minutes. Neither of them knew where each other was coming from, really. If only they'd known how to go about negotiating, and had told each other exactly what they wanted right off the bat. Well, okay, the last factor, the size of the issue here, means large issues require more forceful means of settlement. In other words, the bigger your conflict is, the more radical your course of action gets. This also leads to the observation that a big problem should be broken up into smaller parts that are more easily managed. You won't immediately talk to campus legal aid or an ombudsman to settle the unpleasant situation between roommates over sleeping arrangements that I just mentioned, for instance.
But to me, talking to you at the counseling office already seems to be quite a big step. I'm not sure a lot of people feel comfortable about even doing that.
Yeah, I hear you. But you shouldn't feel that way because it's confidential. Also, how big an issue is depends on your perception of it. Needless to say, however, if you think it's serious and you can't solve it by yourself, then maybe something should be done at a higher level than that of your individual efforts. Well, Thomas next identifies actions taken to resolve conflict. The most frequent behavioral response was to suck it up, followed by positive confrontation. Sucking it up and distancing are the primary forms of manifested avoidance.
You mean by distancing, ignoring?
Mainly, and sometimes it can involve certain actions taken to keep away from the situation. This bears out our suspicion all along. That is, people will readily distort their perception of an unfair or unjust situation if they don't think they can succeed with demands for compensation or retaliation, so that they can live with the situation. This may be occurring often with college students because they lack the experience to develop the skills to negotiate compensation or the power to effect retaliation. This is what student B tried to do. Positive confrontation, the second behavioral strategy, shifts away from the use of retaliation or just taking it. People will then attempt to work it out and negotiate an agreement. Positive confrontation involves both parties in breaking the status quo, actually doing something about the issue. Thomas reports that students do experience a good degree of success in their negotiations, especially when they are prepped for a confrontation in advance. The key is their realization that destructive conflict does not necessarily have to perpetuate itself. In other words, knowing a solution may work exerts an influence on behavioral response. Here's where informing students and developing their conflict management skills comes in. Thomas's study provides many interesting insights into the conflict resolution behavior of students. Well, I thought the last one he cited, their greatest failures with negotiation attempts or with teachers, is especially intriguing. Well, we certainly hope that student B will learn negotiation and other conflict resolution skills so that she will be able to break through her present problem and get along better with her roommate and avoid repeating mistakes in dealing with troublesome situations.
She should say what she wants and when she wants it to begin with.
And nicely, Bruce.
長すぎやろこれ。どんだけやねん。